Hello and welcome to Dommed Podcast. We are your hosts, Mistress Gemma
and Goddess Seraphyna.
Together, we will reveal the art and lifestyle of all things BDSM, Kink, and FemDom, sharing our musings and exploring the nuances of the taboo. Thank you for joining. Are you ready to be dommed? Fantasies.
Fantasies.
So fun.
I love and adore. I think, have you always fantasized as a child?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a daydreamer. I'm also a hopeless romantic, so then daydreaming about anything, not just people, and romanticizing it. And I just love fantasies, the playfulness, the curiosity, the imagination, creativity that goes behind it. And then making it into reality is like the real magic, right?
Truly.
When you can make it come to life.
Goodness. There are three things that you just said that really excite me. And that's the playfulness, the creativity, and you know how much I love the trait of bringing dreams into reality. I think it's one that I search for in people, the ones that I really connect with the most. And you, Miss Gemma, are incredible at bringing dreams into reality.
But as a you, like your artistic abilities and your vision, I mean, just stepping into your home and all the art products you have, it's fascinating.
I love it.
I mean, look at your outfit, for one. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's actually funny because I was, as I mentioned, baby dom. So I'm discovering and exploring my style currently. And I think that something that I really want to bring into this podcast is debunking the one way to present and one way to be as a dominatrix.
Absolutely.
And style and self-expression has so much tied with that. And I love latex. I mean, you look so yummy right now.
Yeah, I know we'll discuss a bit later about, where we want to go, or like fantasies of the future and how we want that to play into our practice of kink.
Yes.
But just because you mentioned it, the different ways that it could be expressed.
Yes.
A big part of it for me at this point is also really wanting to bring more of the lifestyle aspect to my work. I mean, I have that in certain dynamics, but professional and lifestyle is quite a bit different in the practice of it. And I think a lot of times we could live in the fantasy in just the professional world, but to actually anchor that in reality and into day-to-day, I believe is what most submissives want, at least the ones that I see. And so integrating that into a more casual setting that's more realistic and sustainable is something that I think from the outside, looking into kink, they just think of these like hard chains and dungeon and whatnot, but it's so much more nuanced than that.
Yes, I really agree. And it's actually, when hearing about dominatrix, and people would joke throughout my life that I am secretly a dominatrix. Secretly. Funny.
Not so secret.
Oh, not so secret now. I am masked, so there are still secrets out there. But I do think that once I started to understand that being a dominatrix is so much more than hurting people or being mean or humiliation, that it can be so much more psychological, but the psychological can only exist if there's true care in that relationship. And I'm really excited to be interviewing one of your subs, you and your sub,
yeah.
to be able to show our audience the love and the
trust.
Yes, the
Yeah.
trust, the real deep connection. And I think that that was actually the part of Domming that really made me lean in and got me excited, because I had never really been not a nice woman in words for that. I'd never been called that or described that in my life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I initially thought the archetype of being a dominatrix to be.
It's one. It's a possible one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm ready. I need to learn.
So it's part of your fantasy?
It is. Well, again, if the care is there, and I think that discipline and punishment when behavior is not acceptable is a very lovely teaching lesson, or at least it can be.
Yeah.
And
Humiliation, degradation, corporal punishment. A stern hand has been described to me as feeling like a warm blanket.
oh,
Yeah.
that's really
Right?
lovely.
So I'm curious. You said that you've never been described as a biatch. But looking back, are there signs that pointed towards you being dominant or leaning towards being dominant in a power dynamic?
Ooh, I have multiple answers for that one question. I believe my first one is yes, I'm queer. I love people. And I think with queerness, and something that I also want to bring and explain, and that we talked so much about, is that queerness is a sexuality, and also being kinky is a sexuality. And through this exploration that I've had, there's so many parallels. And I think it's really cute at the beginning, or usually on the first date with a queer person, you go over all of the different check marks that said, I am queer, before you were out to yourself. And I feel like we're kind of having this now, which is really sweet. And I definitely...
So are you gauging my queerness?
No, not queerness. Your kink sexuality.
Oh, my kink sensuality. Okay, got it.
Yes.
I thought we were talking about queerness.
Oh,
which
no.
I'm curious about too.
Yes.
But okay, kink.
Yes, more so our kink coming out story. That with in my younger years, there were a lot of signs that I wouldn't necessarily call it dominant. I would just say highly particular.
Okay.
That I knew what I wanted. I knew how I wanted it. And if it was not delivered in that way, I would calmly and articulate exactly how I disapproved and what I disapproved of. And I did it in a manner that was stern yet respectful. And I think that that's my communication style a lot of times. And I was also raised very religious. I was raised Catholic school, the uniforms, the mass multiple times a week. So it was, I think that there's a lot of parallels that I don't necessarily think that it was something...
The power play was there.
Yes.
Yeah, in your day-to-day.
Yes,
For sure.
Completely. And it's funny because same way of exploring kink for the first time, that I started in a submissive state. And I'm quite a switchy little girl in my lifestyle. But it wasn't until fast forward that I was starting to date people that are not in a heterosexual relationship, where I got to step into that dominance, and it felt so natural. And
Would you say it was equally natural with being submissive?
I would say more. And I think that which I'm so excited to talk about and explore in our podcast, is I found that being a submissive only gave me better tools to be a dominant.
For sure. I think being able to play the other side and understanding what that experience is like and what that process of processing it and being able to surrender is huge to then empathize with your submissive.
Yes.
I mean, I thought I came into kink wanting to be submissive and very quickly realized and was told explicitly I am like the worst submissive.
Well, you're a brat.
I am a brat, but I am also bratty dominantly.
Yes.
I wouldn't say most people see that side, but
Yes.
certainly I can be quite bratty. And yeah, I think at least experiencing trying to be submissive, even though I was not surrendering, I literally was told I was like a dead fish. I just gave no reaction. It was just in my mind, I was like, nope, you're not getting anything out of me. I'm not losing control. I know exactly what's happening. I'm present to everything, and I'm not surrendering. I find that I could surrender to myself and other experiences, but to other people, it is more difficult. Not to say I'm not open to that. I'm open to any possibility.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's in my natural tendency
Yes, completely.
to do that with others. So yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many signs growing up that I was quite bossy and dominant. I didn't have as much tact as you, it sounds like. I think I was a lot more blunt and straightforward. That got me into trouble. But I do remember one of the first formidable memories of a sexual scene in a movie. Yeah.
Tell me all about it.
So I don't know what I could say.
Innuendos are welcome.
It was a scene. What was it? I think it was Flashdance, actually. So there's a scene where they're at a restaurant and she's flirting with her date, and she slips her foot under the table onto his parts, and she's just talking to him and like eating food, and that scene stuck with me. I think I was maybe 4 when I saw that, and I wasn't supposed to watch it. My parents had sent me upstairs to go to sleep, but I was like so intrigued that I snuck down the stairs and I peeked over through the hallway, and I was just watching it. And so I remember that scene, and I had fantasies of like being Cleopatra and just having all my slaves just waiting hand and foot on me,
Of
just being pampered,
Dressed
having
divine.
multiple lovers of like Julius Caesar, Mark Antony.
I see this life for you, and I love it.
I mean, I'm striving for it. And I also was just super bossy to boys. Like I would straight up call them out if I felt like they weren't being gentlemen, if they were dating girlfriends, and I'd be like, oh, you should be standing on the side where the traffic is, like
As they
change it
should.
up. It didn't work in my favor for dating young necessarily.
Yes, I was going to ask, what were the repercussions of that?
Yeah, I just don't think I fitted the mold of this like sweet, demure girl, so I wasn't necessarily popular
Yeah.
in that way. And I do remember boys saying like I wouldn't get in a fight with Gemma because she scares me and she would win.
That's powerful, though. Did you feel and this is something that I'd love to explore more in another episode, is that power dynamic, and when you step into your power as a woman in society, it's frowned upon.
Yeah, I definitely had to learn to subdue that. And that brought, I think, quite a bit of internal strife for me in my teenage to early 20s until I started moving away and questioning, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, what? And so certainly there is a suppression and repression of that.
I felt the same. And I think that it was, as a whole, it was, again, being raised religiously, it was, and I think that it actually is such a mirror as a Dom, that I was raised to believe that God was listening to every single thought that I had. So any sexual thought that I had as a child, I would immediately get down on my knees and pray. Be like, I'm so sorry, God. I'll be so much better. And I'll do these things that it's funny because it sounds, when saying this story, that I am a natural sub, but it was actually in exploration of being a Dom that I found the God within me.
So Goddess Seraphyna.
And it was really enlightening and liberating. And again, like I said, that it feels and felt so much natural in a dominant space.
Yeah.
That it was to be able to love in a way that I was taught that God did not love, or accept in the ways that God cannot accept. It is taking the power and being able to not just share it with myself, but share it with others, that you are safe here. You are liberated here. You are welcomed and whole and complete.
Yeah.
And it gives space to explore the parts of self that we were taught to be shamed and feel guilt over.
So I'm hearing a lot of religious role play possibly in your future.
Couldn't you tell by the outfit?
Right, I know.
Yes, most likely. I think that it's not even, yes, religious fantasy, I think, is definitely there. I think that I really love the rituals that it taught me. And I think that it can be quite hypnotic. And also, I think what I gained from it is more psychological. That I'm very interested and have a lot of fantasies regarding the psychological play, getting to know someone well enough to know exactly what makes them tick, and to have my voice in their head.
Be the voice of reason and purpose.
Yes. I have a lot of fantasies regarding that. And I think confessional also definitely imprinted on me.
Exposing the unsheathing, the stripping of their layers and getting to the core and essence of their being, the parts that are hidden, perhaps that they're afraid of, picking that apart. I do absolutely love playing on the edge. Like that is ultimately the sweet spot. Like if you tell me I'm not so into this, or I don't know how I feel about this, or even if a sub tells me a certain limit, I'm like, for now, because never say never.
Never say never.
I've had so many subs who have told me limits, whether soft or hard, and I like inquiring about those. I like digging deeper, like, okay, what's there? What is it you're ashamed of or afraid of? And so many times, just with the built trust over time and the submission growing, they eventually do these things that I want them to do that they never thought they would. And also adopt certain kinks that they've never thought they would actually enjoy, whether they were limits or not. And with me in particular, they just feel so much fulfillment in doing that for me.
Yes.
And handing that over.
Yes.
And the amount of joy and pleasure I get from it.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the ultimate sign of devotion, and it's so special.
Yes. I'm really, really happy that you're talking about this because, again, it's not fulfilling a kink because they asked, hey, I'm going to just go on the internet and find someone to fill this kink. It's the love and devotion they have for you specifically. And it's actually something that I wanted to talk about that I kind of coined for myself is the kink empathy. I'll go on a little side tangent and it'll make sense and come back, I promise. But I currently identify as pansexual. So for our audience that does not know, I don't really care what body you're in, as long as I love and adore your soul, then that makes me happy and excited. And there was a time where I believed that I was a lesbian. And one of my really big arguments is that I'm a very, very, very strong empath, not just emotional, but physical as well. And I would say that I was misunderstanding a man's attraction towards me, feeling that attraction that they are having towards me and misidentifying it as my attraction to them. And to bring it back to kink empathy, I think that when exploring, I've done quite a few things that I did not think that I'd ever be interested in, but it was seeing their excitement, their giddiness, feeling that inside of myself, that it shed light on what's intriguing about this kink in the first place. But to go back to what you were mentioning is that the same kink can feel so different for every single person exploring it, that it was once you are a part of something that someone really enjoys and you're seeing their vulnerability and their trust in you and exploring this together, I think something ticks in my brain where I'm like, oh, I like this now. And I want to dive deeper, pretty please. And let's go on in. Yeah.
I think what makes me tick is, yes, that shared experience, absolutely. And that connection and that kind of the reverence for that space that is only held between us two. But I do enjoy seeing my subs squirm. I do like the challenge, the intensity of it. I like seeing them getting out of their comfort zone, them expanding themselves, the relentless push I give them that makes them crack and fully just give in. And there's kind of like this hypothetical deep sigh, like this deep breath. And for me, getting them into that subspace where all thoughts kind of evade them. They're just really present in the moment. It's almost a meditative experience for me and for them as we are sharing this. And by the end, they're just laying there, thoughtless, just still. And you just see this look in their eye of peace. And for me, that is my ultimate goal. When I'm with my subs, at least in a play setting.
Yes.
Beyond that, I want them to be devoted to me. I want them to add value to my life. I love service. I love ways that they could use their skills and their strengths to assist me in building the life I want.
Yes.
And so, you know, it is certainly my ongoing submissives that I communicate with, if not on a daily basis, you know, quite frequently outside of play sessions, and, you know, fostering that real relationship when I could really understand who they are. They know more about me and my life, and we deepen that dynamic to the point where, as I said before, it's integrated within our
Yes.
lives, the fabric of our lives. It's not just a certain time and space that we're just going to play in the space. Let it permeate to
Yes.
the aspects in our being in a fuller way. And so that is kind of part of where I want to go as well in my practice as lifestyle, and well, as lifestyle it is that, but as a professional is creating these spaces where it's not so much just hourly. It's like, let's spend a chunk of time and really focus on the dynamic and what that really means.
Yes.
Let's not just play a fantasy or make-believe.
Yes. So I want to dive into this because this is a huge fantasy of mine. For our audience, I want to explain, which you kind of said, but I want to explain Dommespace and subspace, if you could, for me, because I, speaking about our fantasies, I would love to explore a longer period of time and see where that really goes, because I don't believe you can accomplish the depths or the healing modality of an extended subspace and where that can lead to and what you can explore in that. So for our audience, could you explain what Dom and subspace is?
Well, it is experienced differently for different people, but how I describe Dommespace for myself is, in general, it's for both, it's a bit of like a high, if you will. And whether that's experienced for me in Dommespace, it's a flow, like time evades me. I've heard that similarly for subspace. It's like you have no concept of time. You start and you end, and you're like, how did we get here? And some people make it akin to like a runner's high, or again, meditation, a trance-like state.
Yes.
And so that's the best way I could describe it. It's, I think, just a bunch of neurotransmitters and things pumping through our body, whether that's adrenaline, endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin for sure, you know, that to create that bond, and possibly some cortisol. So your body's in overdrive, your whole entire system.
Yes. I actually, it's funny, I recently discovered the term subspace and Dommespace.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, which again, I'm a baby, you guys.
A quick learning baby.
One of my, I say my two biggest passions, learning and people. So.
Yeah, I would say my biggest passion is human connection, the human condition, understanding that, human experience, trying to, for me, experience as much as I can, like the variety of what is possible, mentally, emotionally, potentially physically, depending.
Yes, I really agree with that, and I think that it's something that just, I don't think that there is an ending to it. I think that being human, being in these bodies is such a gift. So why not have
Why
as
not?
many see as many things as we can. And I think that that's one of the many reasons why Domming intrigued me so much, is because it is such a gift to share that experience with a sub and another person, that you are seeing parts of me that is very rarely seen, except on the internet. And then also, I'm seeing such vulnerable parts of them. And to go back to the subspace of just learning this term is, when hearing it, I actually, again, I came into the kink world as a sub and in a sub dynamic. And there was a trip that we went on where I now know that I was in subspace for around 3 days.
Wow.
And boy, was it lovely, and boy, it was also when I was able to point a finger and go, oh, that's what that was, and really have that click and that connection. One, it made me understand the Dommespace and that flow state that we were talking about, and how excited I am to create that for other people. And again, my belief that I don't necessarily think that you can explore all of the being in just an hour, in just a short period of time. So it's definitely a fantasy that I have of just getting to be like locking someone up in a space for some time. And then
I do really enjoy bondage and immobilization. I find that as a physical representation of the ultimate surrender. Because to me, if I have you completely immobilized, I could do whatever I want to you, right? And there has to be so much of that trust, and it's almost the exposing of the belly. It's like, take me and do what you will. And for me, that is love in some way. That is trust. That is the ultimate sacrifice.
Yes.
I mean, in a representation, there's many more ways
Totally.
I think you could sacrifice and be a lot more valuable to me. But yeah.
I have a question
Yeah.
on one of your toys or objects.
Okay.
Your latex sack or
Okay, yeah. Vac bed?
vac bed.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Can you, one, explain to our audience, and
Yeah.
two, with still being mindful, could you share kind of that experience and what it not only is, but what it can do for your subs and for you?
Yeah, so latex vac bed is basically latex sheeting, like a bag, like 2 sheets together and within a frame. And so there's generally a breathing hole. There has to be a breathing hole. And the person would enter it, slide in, and you would close it up and then use a vacuum to remove all the air. And I mean, I've tried it just because sometimes I like trying what I'm going to be doing to my subs, and it's quite peaceful. I actually quite enjoyed it as well because, for me at least, it feels like a coddling. Like it's this like tight embrace that you feel like you're being swaddled and coddled and almost like you are weightless in a way. I think that restriction and that pressure creates this sensation of being weightless, and you kind of, I liken it to like a deprivation tank, like a float deprivation tank, except instead of floating and, you know, sometimes you bump around and that could be distracting, you're just in that one space. And I've heard people say when they come out of it, it kind of feels like a rebirth for them.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't have expected that.
Or it's really scary if someone is prone to being a little claustrophobic.
I-
And so there's that fear play, of course. Yeah.
That's why I asked, because I do experience some claustrophobia at times. But again,
Are you curious about trying the vac bed?
I am curious for trying it for other people first.
I'm sure we could find plenty of volunteers that would be willing to try it.
Pretty please. But yes, I would really love that for others, but it was so intriguing because again, I'm such a sensory person that when hearing that you had it, and I was told that it might do the opposite of claustrophobia, of kind of what you're talking about, of making you feel weightless, yet I am quite scared, so I might instill that fear in others rather than myself.
That's always a good way.
Are there any other fantasies that you're wanting to explore, currently exploring, making you excited at the moment?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to wanting to create a bit more exclusivity so I could dive deeper, because that's what I find fulfilling. So that's definitely more of my fantasy. I mean, I've ticked off one fantasy today.
Will you share?
Yeah, so I met with a sub at a coffee shop, and it was just a quick meet, kind of like a cash meet, but there was going to be some worship of my feet and a little pain, will you say, in certain areas. But I really have always wanted to have a sub urinate on themselves. And so I took him to the back alley and I made him do that in his gym shorts right before he was heading to the gym.
Gemma. I
Check.
Thank you for joining our podcast. Did you enjoy being dommed? Like, subscribe, and add your worships in the comments. Follow us on all socials linked in the bio below.